Hello, my name is Ian Stedman, and I am the designer of Magnum Opus, and I am going to explain to you how to set up the game and play it in this video. So, if you are familiar with deck building games, you're going to notice that, like most deck building games, it is mostly comprised of cards. So the first thing you're going to want to do to set this game up is to separate the different piles of cards. And I will do that here right in front of you. It is important to note that this is also the review copy, so some things will look a little bit different and the art may be changed just a little bit. The cards may have a different aesthetic to them, but for the purposes of setup and gameplay, this will be pretty accurate. So let's go ahead and separate everything out. You'll have these blue-topped alchemical compounds. We'll set those over here. Green-topped mystic components. We'll set those over here. You'll have these red-topped cards of various names. We'll set those over here. These orange trade skill cards. We'll set these over here. Yellow-topped research cards. So we'll set those over here. Two special underlay cards. I'll explain the function of those later. A bag of components and a die. These will look very different in the final version, so suffice it to say the yellow ones are going to be gold coins and the blue ones are going to represent experience tokens. You'll have these different backed clue cards, Rubido, Putrefactio, and Albedo. I'll explain the function of those in a moment. And you'll also have these brown-topped discovery cards. So the first thing you'll want to do is look through the discovery cards and find three very specific ones. The Magnum Opus Clue Rubido, Magnum Opus Clue Putrefactio, Magnum Opus Clue Albedo. Sorry. The next thing you'll want to do is shuffle up the rest of them really, really well. Then you'll want to select enough of them off the top so you have 12. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm sorry, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm sorry, you want 16 of them. So we're going to take these cards, all 16 of them, the random ones no one knows about. We don't want to look at these. And we want to throw in these three specific ones. The reason why we include these three specific ones is because they are necessary to complete the game. Without them, the game would go on forever and not have an end, and no one would be happy. We don't want that. So we're going to shuffle these up really, really well. And we're going to set those right here for the time being. The next thing we'll want to do is take this deck of research cards. We'll want to shuffle these up really well. And we will want just as many of these special research cards as we will the green-backed discovery cards. And what we'll do with these is we'll deal them out into a grid. What I like to do is set them out sideways. And the reason for that will become clear in just a moment. So we'll set out 16 just as we did with the others. Okay? We'll take the rest of these, find the research deck underlay card, put that on top, the rest of the research cards on top of there, set those aside, and we have the research deck. We'll take these green cards that we had earlier, our discovery cards, I'll mix them up a little bit more, and we'll put one of these on top of every one of these cards, like so. If you want, you can kind of mix it up a little bit more by placing them down randomly so you really know you have them mixed up. Okay, remember these blue and green cards we had earlier? We're going to take those out now. So separate them into their 4 different piles and place them all on a different axis of the discovery matrix. So you'll have 4 different piles. Each pile will have one specific card in it. And it's very important you have only blue cards on one axis and only the green cards on the other axis. For the sake of time, I'm speeding this along, but you'll definitely want to have all of those out there. The next thing you have here is the reagent search pile card. So this is going to be an underlay that goes somewhere up here, and you'll want to take exactly 3 of each of these cards and make the reagent search pile out of those cards. So I'll take 3 of every one of these reagent cards. I'll take them, I'll shuffle them up. You'll want to shuffle these really, really well. And that will make the reagent search pile, which goes somewhere in that general area. Orange cards. These are your trade skills, so you'll want to separate these into their separate piles also. What you'll see about these trade skills is also something special. So you'll have 2 different kinds if you read the text. Some will be basic trade skills, like this prepare herbs card. And then you'll have advanced trade skills, like transmute lead to silver and transmute lead to gold. The difference between a basic trade skill card and an advanced trade skill card is that you are allowed to buy the basic trade skill cards. You are not allowed to buy the advanced trade skill cards. They must be discovered out here in the discovery matrix, and how we do that we'll get to in a moment. These red cards, these are all of your item and effect cards. If you want to, you can separate them into separate piles for new players. But most advanced players tend to just go ahead and leave them into one big pile where everyone can reach it and pass it around. The last thing you'll want to do is take these Magnum Opus clue cards, separate them into their 3 separate piles, shuffle them up first, of course, and put them down where they can be easily reached on the board. The last thing you'll want to do, give every player 6 attempt transmutation cards and 4 prepare herbs cards. For those of you not familiar with deck builder games, this is your starting deck. Every player will have their own deck to work with throughout the entire game. So you'll shuffle these up, and you'll be constantly adding more and more cards to this deck of yours, which just belongs to you. So you'll shuffle those up, put it down in front of you, and that's your deck. The last thing you'll do is take this bag of goodies here and give to every player 3 of these gold coins. I am ready to play Magnum Opus. And here we have a fully set up, ready to go game of Magnum Opus. So I will explain how to play. So, the first thing you're going to do is figure out who needs to go first. So you'll roll the die. Highest roll can go first. So everyone's going to start by drawing their 5-card hand to start the game with. At the start of the game, you're going to have nothing but attempt transmutation cards and prepare herbs trade skill cards. That's okay for now. So in addition to the 3 gold pieces that you start the game with, you can discard a trade skill card to gain more money. So this one has 1 coin on it, so I will discard that. The next part of your trade skill phase is to discard a second one if you wish for card draw. So there's a number in the icon for drawing cards right here, and that has a 1 also. So I will take 1 gold piece for the first one, and I will draw another card from my deck for the second one. Those get discarded. The second phase of your turn is your table phase. What the table is kind of your workbench in your alchemy lab, where you can kind of store ingredients between the days so you have them readily available and easy to work with. What this translates to in the game is having a place to store your cards between turns so you don't have to have everything you need in your hand based on nothing but luck. So what you can do during your table phase is to place 1 or 2 cards onto your table, discard one or two cards from your table, or you can place one and discard a different one. The table has to have only things that you can use on it when you finally attempt a transmutation. What that means is this example here of having two different alchemical compounds on my personal table would make a transmutation attempt illegal. I would have to have one alchemical compound and one mystic component for this transmutation to be legal, because there is a spot on the grid for one of each, for each of these attempts or transmutation discoveries. So say I were to have these two, okay? So I'm done with my table phase. Let's say I had this on my table already and I put that down. That was my table phase. In my hand I have an attempt transmutation card. This is an action card. As we go into the third phase, the experiment phase, the first option we have is to play an action card. This being attempt transmutation. So I am allowed to attempt this transmutation I have on my table. Now, if I only had this on my table, but I had another component in my hand, or something else I wanted to add to it, like a Hearthstone item card, I could add anything I wanted to from my hand. But the table has to have only usable cards on it, and can't have leftovers, such as this. I couldn't initiate a transmutation with two things on my table that represent an invalid transmutation attempt. So, how do you attempt a transmutation? In the middle of your reference card, you're going to have a basic transmutation explanation, but here it is with a quick rundown. So each reagent card is going to have a red flask on it, and that red flask is going to have a number on it. Those numbers combined is the total difficulty of that transmutation. In order to succeed, you have to meet or beat that number with the roll of the 8-sided die. So in this case, my target is 6. So let's see if I can do it. A 1. That is definitely a failure. Even though I failed, I still go down to where these two cards meet in the discovery matrix, and I still flip this over. I don't take anything else from this card, but now everyone knows what's here, and it happens to be the transmutation from lead to silver, which is great because these can't normally be bought, these advanced trade skills, so now everyone will have a chance to get this better card. In addition to my failed transmutation attempt, I also happen to get an experience token. And these are kind of, well, at least you learn something, kind of a consolation prize. Because if I, for this transmutation with a requirement of 6, if I had rolled a 5, and I had a transmutation, or an experience token on hand, I could then return that to the supply to retroactively increase the die roll by 1 to a 6, which would make this a success. If this had been a success, I would first reveal the card in the discovery matrix, take whatever it told me to take, or follow its instructions. So in this case it would be to take a transmutation lead to silver card, which would go straight into my discard pile. For being the first to transmute this discovery, I also take the research card underneath. So I would take that special card, which represents a bonus. This particular one can be included to your table, according to this icon, for a bonus to any rolls you make, indicated by the blue flask with a negative number. That would go straight to my discard pile, and this would go right back there for other people to attempt. So the next person would go, they would do their trade skills, just like I did, one and a second one if they choose. They would add or remove things from their table, which, by the way, my table would be completely cleared off after having attempted a transmutation. I did not clean that up properly. I'm sorry. The next part is their experiment phase. So, if they didn't have an action card to play, like I did, they could go down the list to the next option. So, the next option would be to draw the top card from the reagent deck. Remember this pile we made out of a little bit of every one of these stacks, 3 of every card to be exact? Well, you can go kind of scavenging for free stuff. So you can just take the top card off of there, Angel's Feather for this one, and then just put it straight into your discard pile. Free stuff, Good. The other option you have is to take all these gold pieces you might have, and you can buy things that you want. You can buy specific reagents. You can purchase up to 2. In addition to the reagents, you also have the option to buy these trade skills. So you can buy 1 reagent, 1 trade skill. You can buy 2 reagents, 2 trade skills. You can just buy 1 reagent or 1 trade skill. So you can buy 1 or 2 of a combination of anything you see. The next option is, if you have too much in your hand, say, oh, I've got 2 Angel's Feather. I don't need 2 of those. I want to get rid of 1. So you can actually sell things back to the supply, which gives you 1 gold piece for each card you sell back, regardless of its value, unless the value is 0, as with this one, in which case you get 0. But it has the added benefit of thinning your deck, which is important to a lot of experienced deck building game players. With a sell action, you can sell up to 2. So you can sell 1 Angel's Feather and then a Vitriol if you want and get 1 gold piece for each, or you can just sell 1 card, it's up to you. Another option you have is to buy 1 card for gold and then sell a different one back. So you can buy 1 up and then get something else out of your deck at the same time, 1 and 1. The last option you have is the most interesting, and it represents the key opportunity for players who may have bad luck with dice to catch up, and that is hiring an assistant. So any transmutation that has been discovered already, that you may not have the ingredients for yourself, you can pay an assistant to go do for you. And how that works is you add up the prices of the 2 ingredients that comprise that transmutation. So in this case, Vitriol and Angel's Feather. Vitriol costs 3, Angel's Feather costs 4. Add them up for 7. If I were to pay 7 gold pieces, I could automatically take that reward. In this case, the transmute led to silver. So this is an odd case. This is one example where you can technically buy the advanced trade skill cards, which you can't normally do, because they don't have a proper price listed on them. They are earned only. So as you continue going through the game, you're going to keep experimenting. You're going to be buying, selling, scavenging, discovering, and more of these will become revealed. Your ultimate goal lies in the Magnum Opus clues. So this particular combination in this game with the random setup yields the Magnum Opus clue for albedo. This combination has rubedo. This combination here has the combination for putrefactio. So, discovering each of these allows you to take one of these clue cards. You can only have one of each of these 3 different kinds of clue cards, and each of them is unique in that they will have a different ingredient listed on them. Even though 2 people may have all 3 of these cards, the ingredients listed on their combination of 3 will be different every time you play. So don't think if you see somebody collecting a whole bunch of Angel's Feather that that's how you're going to win the game, because your transmutation for the Philosopher's Stone, your research may not even show that. What's important to note about these Magnum Opus clues in the Discovery Matrix is that you can still hire an assistant to perform these specific ones. But for Magnum Opus clues, you still have to make a die roll, because just buying them out would be a little bit unfair. So you still have to go down, find the difficulty of that transmutation, and still meet or beat that number with a die roll. Now what's handy about that is you can still use experience tokens if you roll short, but you can't use any other bonus cards like things from the research deck or things from the items and effects supply such as Power Stone, which if you included it in your transmutation, you get a -1 bonus to the difficulty. So you do pay up front for these, but then you get the die roll, and if you happen to get it, then you take the card. If not, try again. So your best bet is still to try and do these with as many bonuses as you can, but in a pinch, you can still try to hire an assistant to do it for you. So once you have the 3 Magnum Opus clues, which you do keep secret, these are for your eyes only as a player, you collect those 3 ingredients. So in this case, it's going to be lead, serpent scale, and vitriol. This is what my research shows is the Philosopher's Stone recipe. So I would collect those 3 ingredients, and then I would attempt a 3-part transmutation for the first and only time. The Philosopher's Stone transmutation attempt is the only one that allows you to have 2 of the same ingredient type on your table. Use the attempt transmutation card as you would. As an action phase, attempt your transmutation, and if you succeed with your die roll, meeting or beating the total combined volatility, you would create your Philosopher's Stone and initiate the end of the game. Now what that means is if you create your Philosopher's Stone, every other player gets exactly 1 more turn to try and do the same thing. If nobody else can, you win the game. If 1 or more other players do, you compare research. So whoever has the most research cards in their deck, either from this research pile out here, or by being the first to discover each of these and collecting them themselves, the person who has the most of them will be the winner. So that is Magnum Opus in a nutshell. This is a goal-oriented deck building game, not like anything else that I had ever played before when I started building it, and I really enjoyed creating it, and I hope you enjoy playing it just as much as I did making it. So thank you very much for checking us out. As of the time of this video posting, it is live on Kickstarter, so please check that out and help us out if you can. But most of all, thank you for watching.